Hello friends. Today we will analyze the plot of a romantic drama from 1972 called The Last Tank in Paris. A 45-year-old American named Paul is grieving the death of his wife. Walking near the hotel, which is owned by the couple, the man notices a young and spectacular girl. Jean arrived in the capital a few hours ago and wants to rent an apartment. Noticing an advertisement on the wall, she enters an old house and asks the concierge for a key to go upstairs and inspect the apartment. Once inside, the girl inspects the apartment and meets Paul, who came a few minutes before her appearance. Trying not to disturb a strange man, she inspects the apartment and doubts whether it is worth renting it. At some point, Paul seduces a girl and the couple makes love. When they leave the apartment, they tear down the ad and rent a place where they can see each other and have a good time. Hurrying to the train station, Jean meets her fiancé. Tom is a young aspiring director who decided to make a film with his girlfriend in the title role. The painting is called Portrait of a Woman, and will tell about their love. Jean does not like this idea, because she does not want to put her personal life on display, but she cannot refuse her lover. Meanwhile, Paul returns to the hotel and communicates with a cleaner who cleans blood from walls, mirrors and a bathtub. It was in this room that his Rose committed suicide without leaving a farewell note. The next morning, Jean rushes to the apartment to arrange accommodation. Movers bring in furniture and randomly arrange it around the house. Sometime later, Paul visits his mistress and helps to rearrange the furniture. Deciding to get a little closer, Jean wants to tell about herself, but the man closes her mouth, not allowing her to tell her his name. An apartment is a closed space from the outside world, where they should not talk about themselves or the events that happen to them outside of it. Jean likes these rules because it creates a kind of mystery, mind-numbing suspense. Upon returning to the hotel, Paul meets Rose's mother, who came to her daughter's funeral. A woman cannot understand Rose's act, because she was a beautiful, spectacular and wealthy lady living in the center of Paris. She had a job she loved and a wonderful husband, but that didn't stop Rosa. Paul also cannot understand the reasons for his wife's action, but he is tired of thinking about it. The mother calmly prepared for the funeral, brought clothes for her daughter and made an invitation to the event. She also wants to invite a priest, but Paul forbids doing this, since they did not believe in higher powers, and the church does not accept people who have committed suicide. Returning to the apartment again and again, Jean cannot resist the gray-haired American, and every time she gives herself to him, despite the fact that Paul behaves rudely and disdainfully with her. Returning to her native home, she helps Tom make a film, talking about her late father, recalling her childhood and the adventures that happened to her at that time. Succumbing to bright memories, Jean can't resist sharing them with Paul. The man responds with nasty things, because for him everything that happens outside the windows of this apartment is an abomination that he does not intend to listen to. Trying to get to know the man a little better, Jean asks him to explain why Paul is not returning to America. Plunging into memories, he admits that his father and mother were drunkards. Childhood is saturated with pain and suffering, as his parents were constantly arrested for minor violations of public order. In his personal life, Paul also experienced difficulties, as he had to keep an eye on the household, sacrificing his free time. Trying to distract himself from the memories, Paul suggests playing role-playing games. Imagining a man in the form of a gray wolf, the girl gently kisses his hands, but still remembers her childhood. Jean's first love was her cousin, but he never touched her in an adult way. When the parents were asleep, they ran out into the yard, where two large trees grew, a sycamore and a chestnut. Jean and her cousin sat opposite each other and satisfied themselves by competing for speed. At some point, the girl realizes that all these stories are indifferent to Paul, because he is locked in his loneliness. Offended, Jean satisfies herself and goes home. Paul does not pay attention to this, because he remembered his wife and his love for her, so he cannot hold back tears. A couple of days later, the man notices that his young mistress is rummaging through his pockets. Jean is ready to do anything to find out anything about him, but Paul does not welcome it. He openly talks and does nasty things, but the girl must endure it if she wants to stay close to him. About to leave the apartment, she asks Paul to wait for her to go together, but the man leaves without waiting for her. Disappointed, Jean goes to meet her boyfriend. She is in a bad mood and does not want to act in a movie, as she is tired of the constant pretense and lies. Tom hardly calms down, hugs and kisses the girl, proving that his feelings for her are sincere. In the evening, Paul cannot sleep and visits Marcel, Rose's lover, whom she has been dating for the last year. The husband knew about his wife's adventures, but could not do anything about it, because he was afraid of losing her because of a ridiculous quarrel. After talking and drinking a little, the husband and lover sympathize with each other. Since Rose's premature departure was a strong blow for both, Paul admires Marcel's physical form, because he is not as attractive as before, but the lover manages to remain as charming as on the day of check-in at the hotel. After meeting with Jean once again, Paul asks the girl to bring butter. At some point, he greedily pounces on a young mistress and uses her dirty. At first, the girl liked it, but now she is tired of being snubbed. After meeting Tom in the park, Jean helps shoot a few more scenes for his film. At some point, the aspiring director confesses his feelings to the girl and offers her to become his wife. Jean is unable to refuse and immediately begins preparations for the wedding. Trying on a dress, she is not shy about cameras and talks about what family life will be like. It starts to rain heavily, and the operators hide the cameras, trying to protect expensive equipment. Tom is concerned that filming is being disrupted and asks them to get back to work. Seizing the moment, Jean escapes to meet Paul again. After waiting for a mature lover, the girl enters the elevator with him and rubs the wedding dress, trying to seduce Paul. The romantic mood quickly disappears because there is an evil rat in their bed. A man calms his mistress, as this is far from the most terrible thing that can happen in life. Jean got very wet in the rain, and Paul offers to take her a hot bath. During the water treatments, the girl tells that she fell in love and will soon get married. Paul is not at all afraid of this, since he is sure that Jean will not leave someone like him, and allows her to use him dirty. Meanwhile, everyone is preparing for Rose's funeral. Back at the hotel, Paul enters the room where her body lies, decorated with flowers. During an emotional dialogue addressed to his wife, the man accuses her of betrayal and lies, but at the same time asks for forgiveness and confesses his love. Realizing that life will not be the same without Rose, Paul promises to take his own life, but has not yet found a way to do it. Returning to work, he meets a scary woman at the entrance to the hotel, who decided to rent a room for a couple of hours. While Paul refuses, the lover uses this as a chance to escape. After learning that the woman was acquainted with his wife, Paul catches up with the man and punishes him for his infidelity to his wife. Soon Jean comes back to the apartment and sees that Paul has moved out. The girl is very upset and cries bitterly, realizing that their relationship is over. Deciding to stay in this apartment, she invites Tom and offers him a place to rent, but the young director does not want to live in only terrible conditions. On the way out of the apartment, Jean catches up with Paul and says that she would like to resume the relationship on new terms. The girl rejects him and thinks it's over, but Paul thinks otherwise. He gives his name, talks about the motel and the death of his wife, recalls his childhood and admits that he has health problems. After going on a first date, the couple goes to an institution where there is a competition among dancing tango couples. Paul continues to insist on a relationship, but the girl refuses again. After getting drunk, the couple decides to dance the last tango in Paris. Their dance is significantly different from what other couples demonstrate, and the presenter tries to drive away drunken lovers. Paul is clearly unhappy with this decision and defiantly bares his ass, after which he leaves the dance floor. After retiring, Jean satisfies the man with her hands for the last time and runs away. Paul chases the girl. She asks passers-by for help, but no one pays attention to her. Running to her mother's apartment, Jean tries to hide, but Paul breaks in and asks for a name. The young mistress tells her what her name is, and at the same moment shoots at the pursuer with her late father's pistol. Going out on the balcony, Paul dies. Jean does not want to go to prison, so she develops a version justifying murder as the only option for self-defense. And that's where the movie ends.